Great. Hi, everyone. We are so excited to have you here today. I'm Nicole Miller. I am the Outreach and Documentation Lead here on Team TARDIS. I am a junior on the team, and this is my third year.
And where are we today? Let's tell them a little bit more, I think, about maybe Corning Robotics. Or should I introduce myself?
You should
All
introduce
right.
yourself.
My name is Mike Simmons. I'm a coach and a dad. I've been part of FIRST for 11 years. My oldest is a freshman at WPI. One of our team leads is my other son, a junior, and I've got two daughters on an FLL team that just won their tournament yesterday. So we are a FIRST family. We've still got people coming in through the waiting room. This is so cool. All right, kid, let's take it away. Oh, sorry, this one's me. So we are TARDIS. We don't speak for FIRST, and it's really important that everybody understand that. We're going to share, Nicole's going to share her experiences with a process that works for us. We do not set rules. We do not set FIRST policy. Certainly, just a disclaimer off the top. And part and parcel of that too, just like there's so many different ways for you to design a bot to attack the Into the Deep challenge. We want to recognize and honor that there are many different ways to interpret the portfolio conditions and the way that you would approach a portfolio. This is what works for us and for Nicole as our lead. Your mileage may vary. And we do plan later this week that you're compiling a list of resources that we've actually gathered from around the world too. Do you want to speak just briefly to that? What they're going to receive from us?
Yep. So probably Wednesday or Thursday, I'm going to send out a Google Doc, and inside there's going to be a couple other portfolio resources that I've looked at, kind of like approved, if you will, that other teams have put out there. Within that, there will also be some resources for Canva. That is our personal preferred portfolio making
Design
application.
platform. Yep.
Yeah.
And that'll come to you guys later this week. We also want to recognize what this isn't is a on page 3, about 4 inches down, you should say this. That's a super specific example. We want to paint with a fairly broad brushstroke. We are gearing this towards younger, I'm going to say newer teams, rookie teams or teams in their first few years of development. We know we've got some veteran teams too. We welcome that. I would say if you want to post a resource in the chat that you think we should be aware of, we definitely welcome that and would include that and share that out to other teams. I've been working in this capacity as a documentation mentor with our team for 3 years. So please recognize this hasn't happened overnight. I teach graphic design. I'm a journalism teacher. I use Canva every day. I've been advising yearbooks for more than 20 years. And this is my jam. I always say to the kids, I teach graphic design. I don't know how a sprocket works or how to program in Java or any of the rest of it. This is my wheelhouse. But it's also been a process. Please remember gracious professionalism in the chat and accord yourselves, well there, respectful of all the resources list we already talked about. And we are and Nicole's at FTC TARDIS. Do you want to put in a plug for Instagram there too? They should follow and they could reach out to you there as well, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. And maybe on TikTok. But yeah, TikTok's back apparently now. So, all right. What's that? Oh, yes. And put your questions in the chat. Sorry. Put your questions in the chat. All right, Nicole, the overview. There we go. What do you got?
So these are the brief summary of everything that we're going to cover today. We're going to talk a little bit about TARDIS itself, and then we're going to go through everything else on screen. So TARDIS, we are a FIRST robotics team. We are sponsored by Corning Incorporated. We've been around since 2011. And even in the past 3 years that I've been on the team, we have been on such a journey in bot development and portfolio. So for all the first-year teams here, you will get there, and you are on a great path. And
It's a blast.
It's great that you're in first.
We're going to talk through at the end. We're going to leave some time for a Q&A.
Yes.
And that's where we could get into some of the things that maybe come up in chat. So as you have a question, if we're going to maybe go past that or continue with our momentum, certainly Isaac can feed that to us all the way through. All right, you good?
Yep.
Sweet. So links, this is your work that you wanted to share. Some of this was available already via the registration, right? Can you speak to that briefly?
Yep, so the link that you see on the left, that was on the registration flyer, if you had access to that. If not, feel free to take a picture of this page. The link on the right is our most recent portfolio that we actually competed with last weekend. And we had inside information that technically we won first think, but because of that, we were more eligible for Inspire. So we didn't actually win first think, but we were there for first think.
Well, I would say we
Yeah.
got bumped up to Inspire.
Right.
So Think went somewhere else.
Yep.
I think what you're trying to say is we're pretty confident that this is a solid document again, and we're able to keep on playing off of the success that you guys said. You buried the lead. I just want to say I'm so proud of Isaac and Nicole, my sons, the rest of the TARDIS team. They represented the Excelsior region at Worlds last year. And much to our, I'm going to say surprise. I mean, it's a stiff competition, and their names were called out for second place Think in a CHOA division, which, if you do the math, I would argue that means it's like top 8 portfolio in the world, and a real point of personal pride and team pride for us up here in Excelsior. So we want to note that you have the opportunity to create a portfolio. The ground has shifted under this a little bit as far as kind of the mindset in terms of the competition manual this year with Into the Deep. You've got the opportunity to submit. You don't have to. And we're going to get in a couple slides into where it mandates you to if you want particular outcomes, which is the awards, spoiler alert. But as you can see straight from the competition manual, we're going to cite it a few times. This language is on page 30, and it speaks to the fact that you can do this. Recognize if you're a developing team, you may find incremental gains by maybe starting with a portfolio perhaps that's more basic, or perhaps you think not to go after, let's say, 16 pages of content. Maybe a rookie team tries to go for one award or one particular area of focus with an 8-page portfolio, or again, a more focused portfolio. But just recognize it's not mandated except where it is. All right. Why do we portfolio?
Yeah, so we portfolio to document everything that we do in a season so that we can be eligible for the awards that require a portfolio, which is Inspire, Think, and Control. And ultimately, it's what the professionals do. So if you work in industry or like really a lot of jobs, everything is documented. And we just want to do that in our season.
Right. And modeling, I think modeling your practice. If we're taking inspiration on CAD, the professionals CAD, so we should CAD. The professionals comment their code, so we should comment our code. We're saying with manufacturing processes and industry and things, taking our lead from the pros and having you document your thought processes. We started here, then we realized this. Because of that realization, we chose to do this. That decision tree structure, I think that's something that I see you guys including a lot throughout the portfolio. On page 36, 35, it says there on screen. You can find the judging rubrics in the Into the Deep manual. One of the questions in the chat that just came up was how many pages can be about the robot. There's 16 pages, with the first being the title page. The only thing on the title page, strictly speaking, has to be the team number.
Yep.
Nothing else. If you just paste that bad boy in there, you're good to go. Does that mean 15 pages of robot? Does it mean 1 page of robot? How do you think about that each year?
Yes, that's really up to the team. The way we do it is we kind of try to split it half and half. So we have half robot and half everything else. We like to incorporate as much as we can about our engineering design process. That's a lot of what the judges are looking for. They want to see everything from your very first ideas and all the way through all of your different iterations and processes to how you got to your final idea and why that is the idea that you chose.
And there is no official formula. 5 pages of robot design, 1 page of CAD, a half page about your mentors. It just doesn't work that way. So for some of you friends that are out in the audience that are, I'm a high school teacher, so my students, some of my students really like it when I give them a word count. Do you like a word count for an essay? If you have 800 words, you write to 800 words, right? Me, I'm just like, seat of your pants. Answer the question. When it's answered, you're done. So we actually have not, I would say, competing views, but I think we complement kind of nicely because you're very work the to-do list. And I'm more like, have you answered the control award prompts, or have you given enough information about that? Have we talked enough about outreach? And when we feel we have, or when we've planted seeds, we move on. And we'll get back to planting seeds just a little bit later. So as it goes to the judged awards, Nicole mentioned this already. Recognize there's kind of there's two main branches and kind of, I'm going to say four categories. The Inspire Award here in the diagram, you can see is the umbrella overall, and then Think has its own special consideration off to the side. But the other two branches, the TA and the MCI, you can see summarized there. And as Nicole noted, portfolio is mandated only for Control, Think, and Inspire. If you're newer to FIRST, you would want to note that the flow is from bottom left over. So design, control, innovate, connect, motivate, then think, and then up to inspire, if that kind of works almost, that'd be what, counterclockwise. Portfolio is where the purple check marks are. It's a mandate. If you don't include a portfolio or submit a portfolio, you won't be able to compete for those three awards. That question from Cameron, sorry, I can see these if you're okay. Thank you, Isaac. Can you qualify for control if you only use encoders and a microswitch? I can't speak to being a control judge. I don't want to speak beyond myself. I think that's one concern that Nicole and I have of we won't really want to speak to our portfolio development process. We're not going to bring up the judges' manuals and things like that in terms of control. Control assesses software control, system control, subroutines, automations, and things like that. And so, Cameron, I can't comment, and perhaps somebody else in the chat would be a better resource than me on the thresholds for that. But I would also encourage you to look at other control award specific resources, either on Reddit or on First Robotics on Facebook, the Discord community, and more. If you are a student in the audience right now and you are not part of the various Discord communities for Global First and FTC, highly, highly recommend. You could reach out to us at TARDIS 5356 on Instagram if you needed more information about Discord. Our kids are all over it and they absolutely love being part of that community. All right. This is what is straight from the competition manual. You said you weren't going to read this out loud, but we wanted people to see it. What are some of the important takeaways here?
Yep, the important takeaways are,
excuse me,
sorry.
Both of us.
The cover page, we have our portfolio here. We like to do our name and some pictures.
Go ahead.
Yep. 8.5 by 11 size paper, and you get 15 pages of content. And something that's pretty important that we've struggled with a little bit is that you can only include content from this season. So like talking about something that we did at Worlds, we can no longer talk about, but we can talk about what we learned from that and how that's been implemented in our season this year.
I was looking at that long question in the chat. If we can maybe capture that. The focus and emphasis on portfolio seems to be more on robot content, CAD. Some of the Think Inspire winners in our region have 7 to 8 pages on robot, 3 to 4 on programming. Connect is the next. So the thing that I would say, I think one of the strengths of Nicole's work is that balance with outreach. I think for our experience or our emphasis, we care a lot about the robot, but we also care about who you and how you are in our community. Just briefly, we haven't shared that experience of that person posting from Pennsylvania, but how do you think that balance has worked for us in Excelsior, outreach, and robots? I know you hit it briefly a moment ago. You like that balance.
Yeah.
You think it's important. Can you speak to that briefly?
Yeah. What do you mean? Like,
well, the outreach matters.
Yeah.
Outreach matters,
Yeah.
I think is what I would push you towards. Can you speak to, I mean, it's the mentors, our little kid STEM outreach and things like that. And perhaps you said it already with the balance piece. You said it's about half and half.
Mhm.
We don't want to overemphasize the robot.
Right.
I think that slide about the proximity, the color coding, I think might help clarify that down the road.
Yep.
Sorry. Yeah, we'll come back to that. All right. So meeting the criteria here, you've excerpted, Nicole, these brown rubrics here.
Yes.
Tell me about Think Literally. Why is that such an emphasis?
Yeah. So think literally. Sorry. Something that we had learned. Hang on, give me a sec.
You're fine.
At our last competition, we had one of our team members' parents volunteer as a judge, and she was able to give us some inside information about how they actually go through the requirements in their judging sessions. So we learned that they literally go through the rubric and they look for, does this team have their goals for the season? Yep. Okay, move on.
Because the rubric said goals for the season.
Exactly.
And this was this set of judges. I want to be very clear. This was inside information from one of our moms who volunteered. Here's a plug to get your adults to volunteer because then you get the benefit of their experience in your region. But different regions could judge differently, and different judges at different quals in the same region could judge differently. All right.
I think we found that.
Yeah, we absolutely have. So you go to the rubric, these brown tables over here. Talk about must-haves and should-haves. Oh, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
So starting our season, hang on. Okay, sorry. The way that we kind of look through what we need to do is we look at the rubric. And the way I like to go through is look at our must-haves versus should-haves. So that's like required versus encouraged. But everything on the rubric to me is a must-have. Because if the judges are looking for it, that means I want to have it. So then I go through and
Take a second, collect yourself. You're right. You're fighting your throat. Elizabeth, thank you for putting that in the comment, commenting as a judge in Washington, that literal approach. Yeah, you're fine. That literal approach, I think is really, really key. And recognizing that as a engineering enterprise, if it says on the paper, do this, and then you want to make sure you do this, it's that one-to-one. To me, that's kind of it's an easy connection to draw. I want to speak as we give Nicole a second to collect herself. She's got a tickle in her throat. Jackie had asked from Wolfpack, and if you can scroll back of any of these others that we can hit right now, I can scroll up. The outreach after your previous season is completed, but before the current season officially starts in May, June, July. Is that, I'm going to say, approved or legal to talk about? Absolutely, yes. And that's specifically cited in the competition manual this year, up in the page 30s or so, these pages that we're referencing here. Our next season, or this season, started the day after we flew home from Worlds. So our team is citing outreach that they did in May. Obviously, the Into the Deep competition dropped, I think it was September 17th or whenever it was. But our outreach in that preseason time is eligible to discuss and highlight. And it's more than outreach. If you go on a manufacturing visit or you do, oh, well, sorry, that is outreach, but STEM outreach. If you do, I'm thinking little kid outreach, but the STEM outreach, what we call like the manufacturing, the adult outreach and things like that, if that is tackled in May, June, July, absolutely eligible there as well. We do plan on sending this recording out as well as a top level summary. I've got a kind of a meeting notes minder in the background. So yes, you'll get that. And sequence on the portfolio, we're going to show you guys in just a few. So I want to give an example because Nicole is so good at her job on this one-to-one. She's back. You're good. You've cleared up.
hopefully.
Cool. All right. Talking, it's a lot. So think award criteria 1B. Highlight lessons learned. Well, look at what she was able to do with the packaging in this year's portfolio. Lessons learned, right? We want to make it obvious that I'll say it simply, use their language. So if they say lessons learned, or right there, if you look on the left-hand side of the screen, trade-off analysis, maybe, and I don't think right now we necessarily do, we're talking about cost-benefit analysis for when we go to champs. We're making improvements in real time of our portfolio this year. So the lessons learned language, just a great example of that one-to-one. Adriana, what if our season ended in March? Is the outreach after valid for this season? So when your season ended last season with Center Stage, whatever day that ended, let's say it was on April 1st, anything from April 2nd forward, you go and you hold a CAD academy to help your kids CAD better. You do little kid STEM outreach. You go on a tour of a local facility. All of that is valid to talk about in this year's Into the Deep portfolio. It's right there in the competition manual. And here's just a detailed view of the lessons learned. We're going to talk about design and things and how we do this coming. I'm not going to go in specific sizes about font size. We're going to talk about contrast as a design element. I can't give you a number because different fonts point sizes result in different real world heights. So a 20 point on one font is not the same real world height as 20 points on another font. It just doesn't work that way with digital design anymore. All right, you are our planner in chief. Take me from the left-hand side of the screen over to the final result briefly on the right-hand side.
Yeah, so I personally function on paper a lot better. So a lot of our initial kind of like
Development.
development and processing will happen first on paper. So we will sketch out what we want the page to look like, just block it off, no detail at all, figure out where the pictures are going to be so you can see it actually, how big is this actually going to be on the paper? And then we put it online, right? That's the next picture you see under the sticky note.
With the big gray boxes.
Yep.
Okay.
Is literally blocking stuff out. And then from there, we'll fill it in, which is like the top half of that page. And that is like really going in and filling everything in. The sticky note that you see, that is a list of pictures that I needed from our build crew. And I'm not sure if you talked about this at all. But talking about kind of like how our teams work together. So we have like our build team, our programming team, our design and team documentation, outreach, all that. We all have to work together to put the portfolio together. I'm just the person that like does all the typing and goes and gets the information. So this was
I would call you, I would call you like the editor in chief if we were talking about a publication, right? So you're tasking out these tasks saying, I need these photos.
Yep. So that the picture that sticky note I actually sent to his son, the other team lead, or one of our leads, saying, I need these pictures by this date so that I can put them in the portfolio. And then that final picture that you see is what that page is currently looks like. The one below is what it's going to look like by the end of this week.
So Nicole just brought us to workflow, right? Capturing the content, structuring and organizing it. We do a lot of design, edit, revise, design, edit, revise. We do, and I would recommend printing at 100%. Eamon, so yeah, let's talk to the chat for a second. So according to the competition manual, your smallest point size needs to be 10 point. That's to help the judges read and to prevent teams from trying to cram in every last little itty bitty detail and make it itty bitty. That's a really bad move.
Because you have to remember your judges are like middle-aged to old people.
Careful, careful. Hi, adults out there in the world.
We
you.
want to make it easy to read.
Dude, I have bifocals. It's good. Yeah, we need it to be navigable for the audience. She's absolutely right. All jokes aside, right? What font works best design wise? Don't use Comic Sans and don't use Papyrus, man. Those are the two things I can say. Again,
cursive.
Right. So really, my jokes aside, and we'll get into this on the design portion of our slides. We're getting there. It's about navigability and readability, right? You don't want to get decorative and you don't want to get so bought into your brand that recognizing the judges having maybe 5 minutes to get your first impression, if you're putting up obstacles to them because you're using a really funky font, it is the wrong move. Even in your headers, right? Those workflow right now is a header on screen. What does that say? We have screens. What do you capture is a header right now on your screen. Don't make those a crazy techno electric something, whatever font, because you want to, again, make it navigable for everybody. I was going to say print it at 100%, print it real size so that you can edit. Nicole's really great when she's doing her own revisions or she's supported other teams. She'll print a portfolio and put it in these plastic sheets and then write on it and mark it up with a wet erase marker so that we can go back and forth. And also Jackson, a whole bunch of Post-it notes and things as we revise and revise. So what do you capture? Your iPhone is a great note-taking device, yes. Right? We live and die by our iPhones. You've captured sketches. You've taken pictures of our whiteboards. What are some of the other things that you're always, we need that. We might use that in the portfolio. What's your mindset there?
Yeah, so we have a lot of team parents that are like awesome paparazzi camera people. And every meeting, they're just going around and taking pictures of people working, people testing robots, building things. So iPhones are huge. Another thing that we do is outreach. So every single outreach event, we try to get ideally like a team picture, but also the team in action. So just yesterday, we were running a robot demo at our FLL competition that we were hosting. And we had a whole bunch of pictures taken. I was taking pictures of just our kids working with the little kids.
Right. And when we have brainstorms on big boards and things like that, or a lot of stuff is being done on a notebook, we're constantly harvesting, parking that, as you'll see, out on Google Drive. Google Drive is our jam. We set up a folder structure every year. You can see up in the top of that screenshot, it says Photos and Media 2024 or 24, 25, and then ITD, Into the Deep Documentation Pictures. So we've got folders and subfolders that Nick and her team have organized that she knows we can go in, people can deposit stuff there. She can say to them, here's your blue Post-it note. I need this by tomorrow. And here's the folder where I need it to all be to make life easy on me. Can you talk a little bit about how we capture maybe not just photo content, but words content, these charts and things like that?
Yeah, so what you're seeing here on screen is something that we started in the beginning of the season. So a lot of times when you're designing, like I personally get really caught up in the design. I'm like, does this look okay? And then I just like completely forget all about the words. So having this is really helpful so that you can have the words to put into the design so you're not actively designing and writing as you go. So this here you can see, hang on, give me a sec. Um, it's a pros and cons list, and that ended up getting really, really condensed to be about this big on page. But just seeing that and having that and being super in detail with everything, this is essentially a write-up of everything that we've done this season. And that way, when I'm writing the portfolio, or one of our other documentarians is, we can go in and get all the information we need, but then condense it. So this is like big and we make it small.
And I would say it's nice to catch it in real time. If Isaac and Dean are iterating something on our gripper or our claw, or they're working out something on the whiteboard, it would be great if we capture a photo of the whiteboard, or as soon as they're like, okay, we've reached a decision, that we could say, okay, time out, go tell us everything you just talked about and put it in Google Docs right now. That would be some like make-believe fantasy world for FTC. It doesn't always happen that way. We'll have to say, hey, you guys just installed that new gripper on the bot. They're like, yeah. We're like, okay, that looks nice. Can you tell us how you got here and what were you thinking? So sometimes it's retroactive and we're reacting after the fact, but it's, hopefully we're keeping it fresh, or we can go back and say, okay, but when you were talking at the whiteboard and it looked like this, what were you talking through? What were you weighing up? Why were you weighing it up? And why did we come to these points? Do we blur faces of kids outside your team in outreach? We don't, and I'll tell you why. And I'm a high school journalism teacher, so we photograph at basketball games all the time. I am not a lawyer, I will say that, but our practice with my yearbook staff has been the same as it has been with Team TARDIS. When you are in a public place, there is no assumption of privacy. So if we're at a basketball arena and there's a little kiddo on the back of our basketball player, and my photographer gets a photo of the basketball player and that little kid in row 6 of the bleachers, and that runs in the student newspaper or the local news or local newspaper or local 6 o'clock news. Again, no assumption of privacy, and we would function the same way at our outreach events as well. We're not identifying the kids by name, that we just identify our students by name. Yeah, well, that's my piece on that. Um, let me take back over. So yeah, we got to keep moving.
Yep.
Okay, so we use a tool, if you want to keep typing that, we use a tool that you're seeing up on screen in one Google Doc. This is kind of a Google hack if you want to try this kind of digital log that we're suggesting. We know that on our page 1, we want to do a team intro and overview. On page 2, how do we bring on new team members or new mentors? On page 3, generally, we talk about game launch. The point of this slide is not to reveal to you our structure or share with you a suggested structure. That structure works for us. But please understand, the point of this slide is we set up that digital parking lot for all of this content. And we will add in headers down in the document. If you do Command or Control Enter in a Google Doc, it kicks in a new page break. So we'll go down to page 6 and say subsystem TBD. That's okay. And we can use the insert command to put a bookmark on that page. So I'm down on page 6 of the Google Doc. We'll put in a bookmark and then copy that bookmark and put it at this page 6 link. And essentially what we made is a hyperlinked document. So we're not scrolling down to page 33. We're clicking on the link that goes to the lift section of our documentation once we've figured out that we have a lift. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Bookmarks in Google Docs can be really helpful. And I just saw a comment to Nicole about the methodology here in the comments from Rachel. Thank you for that. This is part of that methodical mindset. So our resources, we've talked about Google Drive. We love Canva.
Yes.
Briefly talk about Canva. Canva is available to us because of school. So
Yep.
we're using a school license, but go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the first year we've actually used Canva. In the previous years, we've used Figma. But we decided that it was a lot and it was a little bit too much of what we needed.
Figma is design software.
Yep. And so I personally love Canva. So the switch was really easy. And it's really helpful because you can copy and paste designs across different documents. And there's a lot of designs already out there that you can import into your documents. And it's also really helpful for pictures because you can put in little picture frames where you want a picture, but you don't know which picture. And then you can just go and drag the picture in. That'll be included in the resources doc that I share. I found some really good resources on like Intro to Canva. The free account also has a lot available. We have premium accounts because our school provides them for us.
So let's talk about design because it's obvious from the chat there's a lot of design questions. I want to apologize in part, like a 99% apology and 1% I stand by it. I really dislike the font Comic Sans because I teach graphic design and it's largely disdained out there. I fully acknowledge for friends with dyslexia, it's actually been like scientifically proven that Comic Sans adjacent fonts are really easily navigable for folks with dyslexia. So I appreciate the person who put that into the chat. Canva Premium is available free for nonprofits. Love that. Thank you, Carl. So yeah, I really appreciate the community in the chat coming out in support of all of this. I can't freestyle another dyslexia-friendly font. I really should have that as a graphic design educator. Here and now, I would say Google is your friend there. The criticism, in all seriousness, of Comic Sans is that it often looks very young in terms of its communication. There's a funny example of a NBA president, a team president who I think it was when they were letting LeBron James go from the Cleveland Cavaliers a few years ago. He posted the letter in Comic Sans, and largely it was derided as unprofessional. So there's I'm going to use the lowercase t tension of Comic Sans for dyslexia. Absolutely honor it, and we want to be inclusive of all of our participants, but also that professionalism of the engineering portfolio. Maybe I can do some research and we can follow up with you guys via email. We want to offer citations here. What I'm about to share with you in a very, very quick crash course on design comes from Robin Williams. She is just an all-star graphic designer, and many more than 15 years ago, published a book in which she talked about crap design. And everybody can have a little chuckle about that. It's about contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. And it's one of the foundations that I provided Nicole when I actually had her in class as we started working together. I think it was the same year in class and the team both. I think I had you. So in contrast, we want to draw distinctions between either different kinds, levels, or hierarchies of information. Think about playing with a deck of cards, right? The strongest card in the deck is usually the ace. So ace, king, queen, jack, 10 on down. That's design hierarchy. Contrast helps us establish hierarchy, can help us direct or draw attention and emphasize differences in content. So Nick, tell me about this slide.
So this slide changed my life. One of the first classes I had with Mr. Simmons, he showed a picture similar to this to me because I was a really bad designer. And this has kind of been something that I live by when I'm designing portfolio work and personal things. This kind of leads to the size font matters. So if it's big, chances are they're going to see it first. And again, with the contrast.
So this is you putting it to work. We can see the talking points here: headlines, color boxes, color scheme. Briefly, how are you applying contrast in your work with our portfolio?
Yeah, so as you can see, we kind of have what we call like our header font. That's Babus New. Is that how you say it?
Nue, Babus Nue. Yep.
For our kind of big points on the page. And then within that, we have different highlighted fonts. So you can see a red, you can see a green, you can see a purple. The way we use that is good or sorry, bad, good, and just something we want to highlight if we're going in order. So
Let's talk about packaging, the color boxes for packaging. We chunk our data,
yes,
right?
yes, yeah,
In contrast.
yep.
And then the color scheme has, so you spoke to this a little bit. I want to go a little bit deeper. Reds, I would say, are, you said bad, but it could be threats. It could
Yep.
be something went wrong with the robot. We are falling short of our goals or expectations. Green then is what?
Green is we overcame this. A reason why we chose to do this instead of something else.
We addressed the problem and had a positive outcome.
Yep.
Cool. And purple is just kind of who we are. Purple's stuff that we want to highlight,
Yep.
things you're proud about, and things like that. And a good note from Battery Battalion, reds and color blindness. Yeah, that's a good caution. The color coding, I'll tell you, friends, as a mentor for Nicole and the development team on this portfolio, if you have 5 minutes to catch the judge's attention, saying, we were here and this was very, very bad. So then we tried this, it didn't quite work, but then we did this, and huzzah, we're doing better. That red-green color coding throughout the portfolio gives guideposts, gives kind of a compass or a primer to help the judges navigate the content in a much more streamlined way. Let's move on. Repetition. So we're talking about consistency and patterns. This goes to packaging and establishing a style guide. This would be, again, a comfort to the audience. I will tell you, in my time as a graphic design teacher, I've come across students that say, "Well, we have 800 fonts on Canva or in Adobe. I just want to play with them all. Let's do a different font on every page." And friends, that's the single worst thing that you could do because it's very unsettling to the audience, and it keeps them guessing around every page turn. It's like, what's coming next? So this is a complete overstating it. But imagine if you're on, pink zebra stripes on one page and tie dye on the next page and polka dots on the next page. That's just a whole mess for them to keep track of. So repetition in design is absolutely key. To Danya's point, I heard most judges don't even go through most of the portfolio. Is this true? I can't speak for every judge everywhere. I can only tell you that we've gotten primary feedback both from adults in our organization who have volunteered and judges who have followed up with Nicole and other team members to say the quality of their portfolio is outstanding. So we're trusting the process and hoping that they are investing that time on it. Go ahead and click through as you respond to that because you can respond and I can keep talking. So here's where repetition would come to play. As Nicole already highlighted in our style guide, Babus Nue is our header font. Lato is the content font. So when we're explaining stuff or the paragraphs, and arguably there aren't many paragraphs, we'll talk about that soon. We have a brand. Our color in hex is 390065. That's our deep purple. We are pretty tight on our brand management, pretty proud of the way the kids have embraced the brand management. It's part of who we are. And if you are a rookie coach out there and right now your stomach just dropped through the floor and you're thinking, wait, we need a brand? No, stop listening. Everything's fine. You're going to be great. This is our 4th year of me mentoring the team, and it's been a process. And just I'm going to leave that there, but just first things first, we are at a place where we are stable enough and have grown past that development phase where we can really embrace our brand and make it sing. We do package stuff in boxes. We chunk, and I think Nicole and I are going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. There's very few paragraphs. We are very bullet point heavy, executive summaries, and honestly, if you need to talk about things in more than about 2 sentences, you should really think about moving over to bullet points. It makes the content more consumable for the judges.
Mhm.
All right. So repetition, purple, 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 but suddenly we get to red. So can you talk just briefly about the contrast here?
Yeah, so this is something kind of new that we did this year. And it was very like unique. And we were like, okay, well, we have this whole page on the winch, but it's not going to work. How can we tell the judges that and make sure that they really know, like, we are not doing this, but it's something that we did, and hence the red box.
Well, it showed where we were coming up short. We owned it too.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I would want to enter in here. The portfolio does not have to be this rosy rainbow, unicorn farts. Everything's going great. The portfolio can be a place to own it and to say, we are on a development journey. This is part of our engineering design process. To own the mistakes or what you perceive as failures or the places where there's stress or frustration or any of the rest of it, name it, own it, talk to the judges, tell the story about how you're working to deal with it. We talked about breadcrumbs too, and this might be a good page just to highlight this because I actually don't know if I put the slide in here. We don't do long form paragraph responses. We got feedback that it's really boring and hard to read through with the judges. So can you talk about that mentality briefly and our kind of quick reads philosophy?
Yeah, so if you look through our portfolio, you'll notice a lot of like sections, they're all very thin and we have a lot of columns. And that's because when you're reading, it's really hard to go all the way across the page. It's a lot easier to just go, oh, halfway, yep, yep, yep. So
It's called
that's,
scanning, actually. It's
yep,
called scanning.
yep. So a lot of our designs, you'll see they take on more columnar shapes, and that's how we convey our information quickly.
And we've got that contrast slide at the end
Yeah.
of our old paragraphs
Oh,
with
yeah.
our new design. Yeah. So
Yeah.
spoiler alert,
We'll get there.
it's coming. All right. Alignment. So this is about connection and structure and flow. This is the bones of a page or a spread. So I want you to take a look at this spread real quickly. And Nicole's going to talk with you about the next spread where everything tightens up. But we can see the quick read kind of design philosophy here, not paragraphs. I think if you guys look at it, I don't think any one of those packages is more than 2 sentences long. Some of them are partial sentences. So if you're thinking about, oh, if there's any English teachers out in the audience, like, oh, that's a fragment and things like that, that's fine. We're talking to engineers, man. They want like boom, boom, boom. Let me understand this. I'm telling you, they don't have time to read your paragraphs. If you're out there and you're just doing a wall of words about your outreach to little kids or a wall of words about how you design this 3D printed flippy gippy thingy, don't do that. Resist that urge. But Nicole, how do we go from this to what's the point of this? What's the point here?
This makes it really easy to identify and like read through. This way your eyes know where to go. It looks nice. That's something that I really like to do, is make things look pretty, is what I say. So flipping through, you can see everything's aligned either to the right or the left. And that also just kind of helps with everything fitting on the page together.
Mhm. It gives everything a space. How do we get professional, neat, clear backgrounds of the picture? Talk about our foam boards. We pull out our foam boards
Yes.
about once every month here. Real quick, how do we get photos like that? It's foam boards plus Canva.
Yep.
Go.
So we take a picture on an already white background, and then what we do is we
Stop. Foam boards.
Foam boards.
So talk about foam boards. People that might not know what foam boards are.
Big white boards.
Like presentation boards. Sometimes
Yep.
we use trifold boards.
Yep. Sometimes we use that paper right there.
Yeah, we have different white anything that you can put the robot on. We get that. Can you use an iPhone? Does it have to be a fancy camera?
Yes. No, we use iPhones.
But it has to be good light.
Yes.
So an open window or a lamp or something like that. Do think about your light. And then what's the next step? We download it, then what?
We download it and then we go into Canva. Because we have the premium account, we can do the background remover. So we just hit background remover, then we go in and we fix everything. And that's that.
Yeah, so Cameron, she just answered your question. Background remover in Canva. There are other apps, browser-based. You can do background removes in Photoshop in a very automated way these days. But background remover in Canva is great. And friends, if we're dropping breadcrumbs on you, man, hit Google, hit YouTube. Like, wait, background remover in Canva, what did they say? Go plug it into YouTube, go check it out. You'll do fine. All right, last one in craft. Proximity. This is like with like, right? So this is like all members of a family tend to live in the same house, that kind of mindset. Resist that urge to just go wall to wall and fill the entire page. We are big on packaging and we package like with like as well. So much so, this is a look at this year's portfolio right here. So understand that you're scanning across the top where it says design drops down to the second line. That's pages 6, 7, and 8. Then we go into control 9 and 10, and then we get into outreach. Now, friends, stop what you're doing. Any of you that are like screenshotting this, be like, oh, we have to start outreach on page 11 because Nicole said so. True or false?
False.
Completely false, right? You need to do this. You're right. We've had some really interesting conversations with people who put their outreach first. We've seen other books, or sorry, documents and portfolios. I'm a yearbook teacher, sorry. Other portfolios where they say, this qualifier, we really want to win control. So they pitch they expand the control section. Have we toyed with that at all this season? What's your mindset? We're going to compete next Sunday. We're still going for Inspire, right?
Yep.
Real Ask. So
Yep.
how do you balance? Do you want to hit balance since this is up on screen now?
In what sense? Just
Well, how do you know that we're doing it all? I would say this, you probably establish this structure and then you check it back against the rubrics, right?
Yep.
Judges Award, or sorry, Think Award wants this, tick, tick, tick. Control is looking for these things to be mentioned, tick, tick, tick. And this has been the result, right?
Yeah. So we kind of find that a lot of times in the rubric, they really want to see the process. So it kind of takes on how much space do we need, but then we kind of go back and it's like, how much space are we going to take? And we could keep going on and on and on all the way up to page 12 about the robot, but we do need to cut it short because we have so much outreach. So it's kind of finding that push and pull of how much can we, like, how far can we go? How much information can we get while still having information for everything else?
And I think that finally brings us to planting seeds, right? Both with the interview and the portfolio. All right. This is for some of you first year or second, third year development teams that are developing. Don't try to tell it all or show it all in your presentation or portfolio. What you want to do is plant as many seeds as you can. Because, Nicole, bring your child to work day. Let's just say that some judge pings on that when their portfolio is in their hand. What could happen later in the day at a qualifier because you planted that seed on page 14?
During pin interviews, a judge could come and ask, like, oh, we saw in your portfolio that you do this bring your child to work day. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, what led you to be able to do that? And kind of like, what was the process that you took? Like, what did you share with the kids?
And from 25,955 mentor, do you pick from just one award or try to, I'm going to say, spread the love? We are at this point a spread the love team. Our team has existed for 13 years. This is my fourth year as a documentation mentor with them. So respectfully to everybody in the chat, who is newer to First, welcome to the family. We're so glad you're here. We try to do it all the time. That's just who we are, and that's fine. But what we want to support you in thinking about, and honestly, for us, especially for adults out there that are maybe feeling a little bit more overwhelmed, or team members too, like it is okay to say this qualifier, we're really going for connect. We really want to emphasize our STEM outreach. Or this time, we're having a really good programming year, so we're going to put all of our money in on control. That is absolutely appropriate and okay. So please give yourself the grace and space to do that. We've been weak on Connect. What do you do to include in your portfolio about Connect? Ours is our STEM outreach to the local manufacturing community and the outcomes, right? So I would say it's not enough. It's a great starting place to just go and visit a manufacturer. And I want to be very clear with my language. It's not about what you get out of that experience in material necessarily, but it's actually like precisely that. You don't go just to go. We go, last year we went and they learned about these light trees that are at the CNC machines, yellow, red, and green tell the status of the machine. Our kids saw that in the real world and installed yellow, green, and red LEDs on the robot to tell about the robot state. So that was a one-to-one.
Yes.
And when she's able to include that in the documentation, it tells the judges, wait, they're going out and doing the thing, but then it's making a difference for the robot. We really try to emphasize that. I hope that answers at least a little bit that question. All right, so we just talked about plant seeds. We want to get the judges interested and engaged. We've got to be sensitive to time here. So why and how? We struggle with this sometimes.
Yes.
I think sometimes I see you guys really excited. Hey, check out our new gripper, check out our new intake. But what do you want people to understand about process and decision making? It sounds like the judges really want to understand that, but like beginning, middle, and end. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, so like I said a little bit earlier, the judges really want to see the engineering design process. So if you made an original design like our intake for our first competition, but then you figure out like maybe this isn't the best design and we actually want to completely scrap it and completely change it, they want to know why you did that. And then they want to know how you did that. So like we completely scrapped our intake, but then how'd you make the new one, right? We did a whole bunch of 3D printing. We did a lot of different testing. We did a lot of different iterations in CAD.
Yep.
And then that is why we ultimately chose a different intake, because we learned and we discovered that the new design was a lot better.
And let me jump back in. So we're about to go to the third qualifier. They're on their second intake. First qualifier, suboptimal, rolled the dice, tried for something better. They built it. It worked. So now we have two qualifiers worth of data of we weren't where we wanted to be. Now we are. So now going into the third qualifier, Nicole and her crew have an opportunity to tell that story. And one thing that I want you guys to understand real quick, sorry, is your portfolio can be and should be a work in progress throughout the season. It is not a static document. It is a living document. I didn't mean to wave you off there, but you are constantly revising. We've already qualified for champs in March, and we know with that being the fourth appearance, that will also be our fourth portfolio. Real quick on this.
Yeah, this is just to show you how many different iterations of our intake we've been through, and showing this in there.
That's available online.
The
You
big
guys can go
one.
to the link.
Yeah. With all the red and the green, that's just really highlighting like why did we change it and why was it bad and what did we figure out was good.
We want you to appreciate and understand that this is a process. If you're at all overwhelmed, first of all, we hope that as we're kind of rounding home towards home and going to wind down here, we want to be sensitive to your time. Yeah. It's a process, friends. And if you are a team in your first, second, third year, if you are, maybe you've gone through some churn and you graduated a whole bunch of folks, maybe you're a mentor looking for some support. Maybe you are a one-person show in documentation. It is okay to pick and choose. It is okay, I would say, to play the long game. I am so proud of the work that Nicole and our team have done. The examples that you're seeing are not the result of one kid in 1 year. It's the result of 3 or 4 kids and a mentor over 4 years, and building on success and iterating and revising and revising and revising.
Yeah.
Does that satisfy that one?
Yep.
Okay. So talking about revision, hello paragraphs. So this is almost 4 years ago. So
Yep, so this was the year before I joined. No correlation between the differences.
I was involved. That's the correlation.
Yeah.
And we thought that this was a great place to be. So what do you see here on the left on page 1?
When I was a freshman and I looked at this, just like coming onto the team new, learning everything about first, I was like, wow, that's a lot of words. And I did not want to read it. And I was like, there's obviously interesting info in here, like that middle page there. Sorry, with the different iterations, that was really cool. But then like reading through everything, it was really overwhelming because I had to read all the way across the page, and they were in paragraphs, and it was really, really, really long to read.
It's good that there's data there. It's good that you can see our team element on the middle page from A to F. There's data down on the bottom right, but I'm going to call page 1 a wall of words. And much of this is a wall of words. Now we want to contrast that. I will say to the positives, I love the structure. I love the consistency. Again, this is from 4 years ago, and somebody had asked about half an hour ago, is it okay to use the same style year to year? Listen, we're lucky when judges in a region or a qualifier judge year after year after year, but you're going to get new eyes. Like, you don't have to be worried about maintaining that brand or being on the search for the perfect font year after year. Stay in your pocket, man. Like, establish that style guide. We will offer up some suggestions and tweaks and things like that, but we're not going back to the drawing board every September at all. We have a really strong foundation to build from. But this is from last year. This is from the world's portfolio. And we just wanted to offer up the contrast, wall of words versus that red and green scheme. It's diagrammatical. There's more quick reads and things like that. What would you want to highlight for something like this, Nicole?
Yeah, technically it is still a wall of words, but it's a slightly easier to read wall of words because things are in columns. They're quicker to read, and the different highlighting and boldness of the fonts makes it a lot easier to pick out exactly what the judges need to see. That's another thing that I think we forgot to mention earlier, is that when you make something really bold and really big, they're going to look at that first, because, all the other like thin font, they're just gonna be like, oh, okay, it's there. But like the boldness will draw their eye right to exactly where you want them to be looking. And the color can help with that too.
Over on the far right-hand side, I will say if you guys were center stage teams, the paper airplane, the drone last year, we loved that. And Isaac to my left was instrumental. There was a conversation at one point like, data, I don't want to do data. Data's boring. And what we realized, what the team realized very quickly was, wait, when you work the data, you get better. And so they documented the heck out of literally, this is not an exaggeration, more than 1,000 flight tests of drone launch systems, different drones, different configurations, different springs, different holes for tensions, different angles, different launchers, all of the things. And long story short, right-hand side, I'm of the opinion this is one of the things that differentiated them at Worlds was the quality of here's the data, here's where we were, what we tried, what we learned, and where we ended up. And that's that engineering design process that we know that the judges are hungry to see from people. So this one, I'm going to say a little bit longer than we thought. We hope, excuse me, that the content is quality there. We want to honor people's time. We said it was going to run an hour. What I'd like to suggest, if we can, is that we're going to keep the microphones quiet because I think that could just get out of hand real quickly. But we can stick around for, I'm going to say maybe another 10 minutes or so and hit some questions. We'll respond live to questions that come across the chat. I want to thank Nicole for her preparation. Proud of you, kiddo. And trust me, I'm just going to name it like tickles in your throat happen when you present. You're absolutely fine. You did great.
Yep. And just to cover really quick for the people joining, we have recorded this and we will be posting it after this meeting. So, if you missed any of it or you had team members that also wanted to see it but weren't able to, this will be shared with you.
Yeah, and we'll probably have it up on YouTube, honestly, later tonight,
Yep.
Even. So if you need to head out, friends, by all means, feel
Do
free
you want to take a picture?
of everybody here.
Yeah.
Let's try that. Yeah, let me pull off of screen sharing for a hot second. And hey, Battery Battalion, good to see you guys again. So good to see you. Let us go. We're going to try to get a gallery view of everybody. If you guys want to, and yes, this is going in the portfolio. See what we did there? If you want to turn on your cameras for a hot second, we're going to scroll through. We got 4 pages of attendees. And if you'd rather not, if you don't want to participate, that's absolutely, absolutely fine. If you want to show us your robot or if you want to head out, that's great. We're going to grab a couple quick screenshots. And we'd be happy to have, the YouTube channel is just TARDIS 5356. You can search it. But we're going to start grabbing and knocking out some, you got to turn up a smile. We're going to grab some screenshots here of you all. We really appreciate you guys and your attendance today. And we will hang in here with some questions. So here's a couple screenshots coming your way. You don't know what page you're on. So we've got some avatars and some team numbers. This is super cool. This is documentation live. This is so good. All right. So you can turn your cameras off if you wish to, if you need to. But let's get into some of these questions. How can we get to access some of your portfolios? So we put up a QR link early. I'll put it back up now for folks as we navigate. You can see some of those questions, Nick. Why don't you tackle 1 or 2 while we're going? There we go.
Okay, yeah. So CAD or team photo as cover page, that is up to you. We personally like to do team photos. I've also seen portfolios where they have a nice big picture of their robot, makes it look really cool. So that's really up to you.
Here are the links to the portfolios. The left hand, again, is the world's portfolio from last year. Right hand is current, or as of last week, Nicole's current work on the Into the Deep season. Jackie, thanks for that kind feedback. Truly a priceless workshop. We really appreciate that. There you go. Your goal was 12 people. You had a lot more than 12 here, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm saying you did a good job. How do you keep your text and images organized? So again, I would say inputs or intake is in Google Docs and Google Drive to collect. But then Nicole spoke a little bit to that kind of blueprinting. Can you hold that blueprint back up to the camera up there? So it's a lot of sketch out. And maybe we can, I don't know, take a photo of that and send it out on email or something like that. But it's hey, and I will say some of this comes from experience. We just visited this local manufacturer. We're going to take the top left, so I'm going to say quarter of page 12 to tell that story. and it's a photo, it's, a basic who, what, when, where, and maybe two things we learned, two big takeaways, right? And that takeaway thing drives at the why. Because one thing we've realized together is we're like, wait, we're doing too much what again? Check out our gripper, check out our lift. Okay, that's cool, man, but why are you doing it? Are you doing it because it helps address a sustainability goal? Is it because it addresses your game strategy? Is it because you're looking to make a relationship with a local manufacturer because you need some fabricated parts like we did? What else are you seeing in there that you
Yeah,
want to
so
address?
two geckos. This year we actually didn't use a template. I kind of copied everything from last year's into Canva, and we were able to maintain that general
But the
structure.
document size is eight and a
Yes.
half by 11.
Yes.
Yeah, that 8.5 by 11. It is just doc. I would say my experience, and I'm freestyling this, geckos. Um, I at times had found I like custom documents in Canva where we say I want 8.5 by 11 inches. The pure click on the word doc and it creates a doc to me has been too essay-like at times. I'm not sure if you understand what I'm talking about, but it's been too rigid. I like just the white canvas.
Yeah.
And we start that with a custom size 8.5 by 11. Um, Recommendation of ratio of text to pictures. We are a show, don't tell, right?
Yes.
We like to show, don't tell.
Yeah. But I think it's also important to describe your pictures if they're not self-explanatory. So like even right there, like the picture in suite. No, that's fine.
Sorry,
The
go ahead.
picture in suite of all our team members just standing up and smiling. If you just put that in with no explanation, I'd be like, okay, that's cool. I guess they're standing in a semicircle. But like having that explanation, like, oh, it was an egg drop. Oh, there's splattered eggs right next to them. That shows they were doing the egg drop. Things like that. And a lot of outreach, it's easier to show it, but like while you're describing it. And especially with the robot, like I could describe our intake. It's got these uh fingers that go and spin, and it's got this tray and it got some wheels. I don't really know. I don't do robot. I document robot, but I don't do robot.
I do robot.
Um, but showing what you're describing is really helpful.
I think too, one of the things that I see as a mentor when we've consulted with other teams to look at their portfolios, which may be something you want to mention, 85 portfolios is a whole lot, but we are a resource and Nicole does a bang up job offering feedback. So if you want to get an email, we can
Speaking to that real
that.
quick,
Yeah.
because it was something I was going to mention. Right now, because we are kind of in crunch time in our season a little bit, yep.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to look at your portfolio, but I'd much prefer if you could send them after the season's over because I'm
You have a job to do.
open.
It's okay.
Yeah,
You have a
I'm
job to
open
do.
all summer to
Yeah.
look at portfolios, and
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to meet with all of you individually. It's just a matter of, do I have time? You
Yeah.
know, because I have school and all that. But in the off season, I am more than happy to help you out with your portfolio so that going into next season, you can have a really, really strong documentation.
So I was going to speak to that consult thing. When we've consulted, a really specific example from a team we visited with from Mississippi last week, they used really large pictures of their mentors on their how did we identify our mentors and who are they page. And frankly, I'm going to tell you, like my rule of thumb would be a headshot about the size of a thumb, honestly, right? Or if you're going to be, you want to get small, but like a quarter of the size of a Post-it note, whatever, an inch and a half by inch and a half, things like that. You can see with what's up on screen here, we're in Canva live right now, but this is a screenshot of one of our pictures or one of our pages from earlier this year. Those pictures, there's 6 pictures on that page, and they're all quite small compared to the overall size of the page. I think one thing I appreciate about Nicole is she's really great about the page kind of budget. We have 15 pages of content and balancing the competing demands of all of the judged awards, fully telling that story, going back to it, planting seeds again. Some of it just comes with experience. We know what the judges are looking for, and we would encourage you, and I say this humbly, but I would invite you to look at the portfolios that she's developed because you might be able to find really nice examples of balance from Nicole's work.
And talking to that really quick, even on screen right here, you can see that this page that's currently in development compared to the page next to it, this page here, the bottom half, doesn't score us any points in the rubric, but it's something that we did. So in going through and trying to figure out, because on the left-hand page, there's outreach that we did that will score us points. And it's technically more beneficial to the rubric, but I love the content on the right hand. But because it's not necessary, I was like, okay, we need to fight back the space. So I moved it off, and now we're going to put in more first relevant outreach.
So I'm going to say that slightly differently, especially for the mentors and the coaches out there. Mental health and the fundraising for the community food pantry. Nicole knows the rubrics inside and out, and at no point in the rubrics does it say be good human beings to each other, aside from gracious professionalism, fully acknowledged, or be great human beings in your community outside of the STEM world, which is to say, if you run a local fundraiser or you're helping little old ladies across the street, dude, that's awesome. Love that for you. But it won't earn you a nod and a judge's award. It's okay to be considered good humans. And that's why that's in the portfolio on the bottom of 15 from earlier this season. It's out now or soon to be out because as the season develops, she's constantly managing that page budget and saying, I'm going to pull out that package because where that one package was, I can get two other things. And I think that will strengthen our claim to the control award or something like that. Keep the questions coming. I'm not sure what we're down to. We've still got 60 people here. So we're happy to keep on scrolling. How many members work only on the portfolio? So to say only, although this year you have shifted, you are also doing documentation. You've been adjacent to programming for some time, but you are our programming lead. So,
Outreach.
and sorry, outreach. Sorry, outreach lead.
I did programming my first 2 years.
But you're our documentation lead. I messed up my language there.
Mhm.
But we do have other team members. You call people off the bench as you need
Yes.
support. You've got kind of a second person there with you on the team. Is there anything else that you would share about how we structure our approach to documentation?
Yeah, so documentation, as far as I'm aware, it's often like a 1 to 2 person thing. I find it easier to work on it more alone because I'm very picky in what I like. And I have a very high standard of work. So sometimes it is easier for just one person to work on it, but then it's a lot of work because then you have to do everything robot and everything outreach, and you have to do absolutely everything. Something that I find helpful is asking team members, hey, can you, do a quick write-up of what you just did in our ITD doc, which we showed earlier. And, that way I have the content to go. Cameron, that's funny.
Yes, stay focused. We'll
yeah.
get there.
And to go and have that so that when I need it, when I get to that point, I can go and just stick it right into the portfolio. Cameron, your question of how do you convince your team to help you with the portfolio?
If you're going to make the portfolio important, you need to make the time for it and you need to make it important.
Yeah, and honestly, we haven't really been in that situation, but if I was in that
It's
situation,
part of our culture.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would say the portfolio can get you awards, and people like to win. So if you help with the portfolio, you have a higher chance of winning.
Yeah, or if you want to be competitive with the best teams in your region, the best teams in your region are winning Inspire. The only way to win Inspired is to have a great portfolio that documents your journey.
Yep.
So buckle up and get documenting.
Yep.
And I say that with a little bit of sarcasm, Cameron, but I know that I will say no sarcasm. It is easy to find yourselves in a place where it's all eyes, attention, and energy focused on the bot. Right? Because the bot's the fun thing. You get to drive the bot, you get to program the bot, you get to win points with or score points with the bot. But for control, think, and inspire, and ultimately inspire can advance you and I would say for the best teams in the land, they want to compete at the highest level with the robot and pull that inspire award. That's where that portfolio comes into play. Somebody had asked about the judge and judge advisor manuals. We are on page 34 of the competition manual. You can just Google FTC Into the Deep competition manual. Go to page 34. There are other places to find the judge advisor manuals, but they're pretty transparent. First, just everything's out there if you know what to Google for. So if you want to take a deep dive and kind of take Nicole's approach of, okay, I know they're looking for A, B, C, and D. To exemplify or demonstrate D, I need XYZ from my team. That's her thought process of breaking down the rubrics and saying, if they want this, we need to do this and this. To tell those stories, that means I need photos of this, a screenshot of the CAD, and details about the thought process from the two team members that worked on the gripper. And then you're off to the races and hunting them down and finding. We have leveraged Google Docs. Do you want to talk just briefly? It can be hard for you to interface with 14 other people.
Yeah.
So can you just briefly, what's that little hack that we've used with Google Docs?
Yeah, so
Or sorry, Google Forms as a survey.
oh yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
sorry.
yes. Yeah, so on our second page we have like what is everybody proud of, you know? So instead of going and tracking down every single team member and putting them on spot, like tell me three things that you're proud of. I don't do that. I just send it in our team
Slack.
kind of group chat Slack. And and I have everybody fill out the form before a certain date, and then I track them down if they don't. Sorry.
Nicole almost lost her voice yesterday at our FLL meet. So, and then we had this, and we're like, well, we can't shift it. You're doing fine. Take it easy. So she'll use the Google form and survey approach to elicit that feedback. We've done it both on like, what are you proud of? What have you learned so far this season? Some of that more kind of human side of things, but it can also be, since our last competition, what have you been focusing on? Where did you start? Where are you now? And what's next? There's different kind of mentalities that you as a coach, advisor, or lead documentarian could bring in Google Forms to elicit that kind of feedback from your team members. So a couple questions about AI coming in. I'll be honest. I think I'm right about this, and you can wave me off if you can't speak to it, but you've not gotten after ChatGPT with our content at all. I teach an information technology class. I would tell you that I think there could be some use cases for AI. I've had people try to argue with me that they could use AI to create their yearbooks and things like that, and actually or caption a photo. But you've got to weigh up the investment that you have on the front side of creating the appropriate prompt to get the right result. You might use it for idea Let me be clear. Let me slow down. And I'm freestyling. This is not a question that I had anticipated, and I apologize. I'm not comfortable with the AI creating content out of whole cloth, right? From zero and giving me the finished result. If a prompt was our high school robotics team needs to create a engineering portfolio to highlight and document their journey this year, what kinds of things should we highlight and include? And it gives you an outline of directions you should go. I wouldn't waste the time in ChatGPT. I would go to the judging rubrics and say, it's already been done for you. What they want to see is right there. If you can clarify those AI questions for me a little bit, I understand I use ChatGPT for helping debug Google Sheets, formulas and functions and things like that. I'm not ignorant of the technology. I might be a little bit challenged to see how using it is of benefit enough to not just do it the way that we're doing already. I'd be worried about a time suck and things like that. AI for logos and things like that. I think that you could do that. You absolutely have to cite it. Logo created, via, ChatGPT or whatever the different image generation versions or flavors of it are. A training course or tutorial course for documentarian to learn Canva best. I can't isolate Rachel just one, but YouTube is your friend. Canva itself has a host of tutorials and kind of chapterized content that is structured. I will be honest with you, I can't tell you right now where to access it from, but I'm sure we can include that actually in the document we're going to provide them of want to learn Canva. Check out these first few resources. There are entire creators on YouTube whose whole channel is dedicated to being like a Canva master user. And if I were to find somebody that like kind of their tone and energy and delivery was a good match for my documentarian, because not every like Nicole might not vibe with a particular content creator or tone or whatever, that's valid. Find that content and then just take a deep dive on that channel as an example. But YouTube is huge. Technobolts, the most important topics that judges should see. Friends, got to go to the, if you didn't catch it earlier in the presentation, we covered where to find the judging rubrics. You want to be around page 30, 32 of the competition manual. That's where you guys have to pick up from here and respectfully tackle that work yourselves. There are very clear lists of what they're looking for. If you want to be competitive for control, if you want to achieve for connect, if you want to be considered for think, do these things. We take those rubrics, turn them into to-do lists, and that's where Nicole's work has begun. And then she brings that to life throughout our documentation and portfolio. You doing okay?
Yeah, that's my makeshift cough drop.
Cough drop. There you go. It's purple too. It's
Yeah.
on brand.
A lot of interview questions.
A lot of interview questions. Do you create a PowerPoint for the 5-minute judging? I'm going to say we don't, and we don't have the time.
Right.
5 minutes goes by in a flash.
It does.
So you guys have invested more in props and the portfolio. You bring the robot in and gesture to it and things like that. It's on its cart. Can you hit that real quick? Why would you say no PowerPoint?
Yeah, so it's really interesting that you asked that. There is a strong parallel between our interview and our portfolio. So in our interview, we introduce our team, we kind of talk about our initial design process, and then we talk about robot and subsystems, and we talk about programming, and we finish with outreach. You'll see that exact same structure in our portfolio.
And I think that makes it more, I'll get you, it makes it more consumable for the judges, right? So if we had 6 or 7 kids on robot design and then the last 4 kids on outreach, that structure, when the kids leave the room, they open the portfolio and it feels like 1-to-1 the same. That's absolutely intentional because we want those breadcrumbs to line up, right? With those seeds planted. Can you, for your presentation team, if you have one, so FTC for us, at least the way that we manifest it as TARDIS is different than FRC, where those teams could be 60 people and only 4 go into the room. For us, every kid on TARDIS goes in, so they're seeing 15, and 11 or 10 are in the initial presentation. We hold some seniors. This is a little insider pro tip for us, inside baseball. We leave our seniors, our oldest members, to be the first people to answer questions. That's a strategy point. So let me slow down for a second. Our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, they do the presentation. We know the questions are going to come. The seniors hit the first questions, and once they've all spoken, now everybody's spoken. And then for the remainder of the questions, it's a organized free-for-all of who steps forward with areas of expertise. That ensures that the judges have heard from every team member. We think that rates with the judges and is something that they like to see so that they know that just one wonder kid didn't design the bot, program the bot, run the bot, drive the bot, make the portfolio. We're spreading the love intentionally to show that our team functions as a team, and that's really important to us. Do we have mock presentations before the actual presentation? Oh, do we? A lot of them.
Week before.
So, I mean, this is the week before competition, and actually, this is a quick turn from your last competition. So I'm going to say, I think our interview practice this week is going to be a little bit lighter than normal. Certainly going into championships in March, you guys would be practicing for probably 3 weeks. And your mileage may vary. 3 weeks, what does that mean for TARDIS? We meet Sundays from 1 to 5, Mondays from 6 to 8:30, and Thursdays from 6 to 8:30. So we're seeing our team for 9 hours a week. And in the weeks before championships, are we doing okay on balance here? I'm not talking too much for you.
No, you're
Okay.
fine. You're fine.
Great. In the weeks before championships, they'll invest hours in not only the presentation practice, but also in practice interview questions, which is to say our coaches and mentors, and sometimes we bring in local engineers or parents that are a little bit more removed from the process so they can speak a little bit more authentically and a little bit less play acting. Like if I say, well, Isaac, tell me how you designed the gripper. I know exactly how he designed the gripper because I was there when he did it. We can bring in a parent and maybe put some questions in their hands. You can find all sorts of suggested FTC interview prep questions. If you just Google that, you can find lists and lists of questions out there that other people have collected and curated. And we put those questions right in front of our team as they're developing. Help me with other things that you think we should highlight. Question: do we keep an engineering notebook? Thank you, COVID. Thank you, COVID. Thank you, COVID. I am going to suggest, this is my hot take. And sorry, I shouldn't joke about COVID. I apologize. I'm going to slow myself down. prior to COVID, it felt like there was an arms race in First Tech Challenge of who could make the biggest, baddest engineering notebook. And teams would walk in. If you're a newer team that's only been around since, let's say, after COVID, you wouldn't have experienced this. But teams, no joke, would go in with 6-inch thick binders and like drop them like cha-chunk on the table, and like dust would go up and the judge's coffee would spill over. And you're like, yeah, we have a 35-pound engineering notebook. Not the point, dude. They have 5 minutes, 5 minutes to put you in contention for these different award paths and stuff. So one of the benefits of FTC post-COVID, in my opinion, this is my opinion speaking for myself, is the streamlining of the documentation process, because you are down to 15 very efficient, very quick pages to tell your story. And a 6-inch notebook or binder or monstrosity won't give you then that false sense of, hey, it's 6 inches thick, therefore it must be great. It just doesn't work that way at all. Do we script the judge's interview? Yes, we do, to make sure that we're hitting the talking points. The questions are not, but we do know that certain kids are tapped for certain questions. You speak to outreach all the time.
Yep.
And your pet projects. I will say one of the things we're wrestling with right now is the balance, your pet projects, like the things that are your personal areas of focus. Yeah, absolutely. The ones that you're like, this is my project, and I love it. Interview scripts, it's important that it sound and I'm going to say be authentic. So we right now are in the midst of we need to highlight these points, but we need for Victor to say it his way and Dean to say it his way, and whatnot. Eamon Merchant, what do you highlight in the presentation? It's one-to-one with the portfolio, almost.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there's necessarily something that's the most important. That's really up to the team. It's kind of like, what seeds do you want to plant for the coaches or the judges to come and ask you? Right. So in my script, I mentioned something called a STEM box. We've gotten so many questions on the STEM box because essentially what it is it's a
Tupperware container.
Yep, Tupperware container
Victim.
with a whole bunch of STEM activities and books for students in classrooms, like for all the schools that we visited.
You're distributing them to local
Yes.
elementary schools.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of the judges, they're really interested. Last week we had a judge and she is an elementary teacher and she was like, do they get to keep the boxes? Like what's in them?
Yeah.
She was so into it. So planting those seeds so that the judges can catch you and like come and ask you either during the interview or in the pits. It's really like, that's what I would highlight is the things that you want to be able to expand on.
And you just made me think of Forrest Gump, because judging sessions are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And you got that elementary school teacher and she like just pinged on that immediately, but you could go to your very next qualifier, or the kids in the room next to you could have a totally different judge who's a software developer but in their day job. So you might that room through that wall the same morning at some local high school at your qualifier, they might have a completely different line of questioning. So just recognize that, right? It's very Forrest Gumpy. I would say.
We've even been asked like, why are you purple?
Why are you purple was one that really threw them. It was really funny. So I saw we want to keep, this is great. And again, friends, if you are still with us, we still have 50 people. That's awesome. I think we're good to keep going for a while here. Hopefully this is helpful. By all means, leave anytime you need. How long before the interview do you prepare and practice your scripts? I'm going to say about 3 weeks. Generally before 2 weeks. Ideally 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks.
Ideally 3 weeks.
We make the
Usually it's
scripts and
2
hand them out like 3 to 2 weeks before, and then
But we really hit it hard in
Yes.
the 10 days before.
yeah.
Yep, and we do memorize our scripts. It's very short. Each team member is speaking
3 sentences,
Yep.
maybe.
It's like 20.
Because we're getting, sorry, let's break that down. We're getting 11 people through in 5 minutes.
Yep.
And they are detail-rich sentences and whatnot. It's a lot of content pinged in a very small or contained to a very small amount of time. Again, though, friends, planting seeds, planting seeds, planting seeds. We want them to hear, and then we made our STEM boxes that we're very proud of, blah, 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 blah. 3 minutes later, that elementary school teacher who's a judge can say, so let's go back. You were just talking about those STEM boxes. Can you tell me more? Boom, success. We planted a seed and they followed up on it.
Yeah, so Cameron, how do you handle kids that don't speak up? Isaac was actually a kid that didn't speak up his freshman year.
Not good at presentations.
Yep.
Yeah, and honestly, it's just practice, practice, practice. Like, make them shout to the other side of the room. Because we've had kids before that are really, really passionate in sports. One of our team members is a swimmer, and if you've been at a swim meet, you know they are loud, and you know that people cheer loud. And I had seen him cheer loud before, so I was like, you got to channel your inner cheer, and really just practicing and training the ability to speak up and speak out, like to the wall behind the judges, not to the judges'
Project.
tables.
Yeah.
That's really important.
And also listen for the question. One thing that we've observed as adults in the room is that occasionally our students haven't understood the question. It is perfectly okay to say, I'm sorry, could you rephrase that or ask that again? It's not an embarrassment. It doesn't mean you're not paying attention, things like that. These judging sessions are usually in the morning, very early. The question that I'm trying to address, if a teammate doesn't know the answer to the question, what would you guys recommend to do from Technobolts? Thank you for that question. Having every team member or the majority of the team members speak at the presentation phase, those opening 5 minutes, so that they've heard every voice. For us, I'm going to be honest with you, like behind the scenes, we're checking boxes. We're making sure that the judges are hearing from the team collectively. The expertise then, or I would call it areas of focus, we are a team of 15. Maybe you out there are a team of 6 or 2 or something else. I would want, as a coach and a mentor, I would want for our students to go through that room or going into that room that morning thinking, and we rehearse this way, I handle documentation and outreach. I'm going to be listening for questions that sound like the things that I focus on. I handle programming. I spent a ton of time on the lift. I have programmed our encoders, right? It's that kind of activating, kind of lying in wait, listening for that question of these are the things that I worked on, the things at which I am an expert. And you would want to coach and mentor and practice, rehearse your team to be ready to step up when that question, I'm going to say, comes their way, even though they're asked to the open room. Kirti, how do you suggest organizing info in the portfolio? So the links that we've provided, you'd be able to go and look at Nicole's work from Worlds and so far this season. There's 2 levels to your question, individual pages and packaging. And we addressed this about a half an hour ago. The quick reads and staying away from paragraphs, that's so that you're making the content more navigable for the judges. Walls of words or bads. Do you want to go back and summarize that real quick? Can you say anything more about sentences being bad? We have 5 minutes to make that impression, right? So where do we, or how do you think about maybe budgeting a page that way? Where could you take that thought?
Yeah, so kind of like putting the same category on the same page, which answers your next question. If you've left less information, kind of like putting similar topics on the same page helps with the general flow of the portfolio. And the quick reads, like Mr. Simmons was saying, of like making things into columns instead of like full sentences all the way across the page. That helps the judges just go through and read really quickly. And also with like highlighting certain sections, like making them bold or a different color, that can also help.
And I would say here on page 14, one thing we didn't talk about is our headers. If you look up at the top of the page that's here on screen, we motivate and connect. Gang, use their language to say, hey, check me out, motivate and connect. See what we did there? Hey, right? So page 14 is Nicole's bid at the Motivate and Connect Awards. And this examples of the ways that TARDIS has motivated and connected in our community. But to Kirti's question, I would say as a yearbook advisor and a publications advisor, there are 4 packages of information on this page, right? Corning Inc., upper chunk, 1,200 kids, our elementary schools project, middle chunk, isolated in a purple box with then a sub-detail, the STEM literacy project. That's that STEM box that Nicole referenced earlier. Then bottom left, Upsilon, bottom right, community communications. That page is conveying 4 different levels of storytelling. It's chunked, it's packaged, and it's Nicole avoiding long explanatory paragraphs so that we can get some photos in there. We've got kids lying on the floor with our team members on their gym. Doodling robots during a presentation at a school last year. We've got a team photo from Bring Your Child to Work Day. We've used arguably 1/8 of the page for that photo, but it works. You want to balance those photos and that text as well.
Yeah, so Kirti, we did record the whole meeting and we will post that on YouTube.
But I can go here.
And that we can share. Yep. So if you want to go back and watch like a lot of the things that we covered, I'm not sure when exactly you joined, but we will be posting that so you can have all that information.
Do the judges want individual bios of each member? No, 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 no. A quick, I'm Dean, I'm a third year member, and I emphasize this, but not like I like, pizza, and I also play baseball, and I'm second chair violin in the orchestra. Absolutely not, man. Don't do it. And
Yeah.
we've seen portfolios do that. They don't care that you like long walks on the beach or anything like that.
Kind of what we do instead is we do introduce the whole team, but we do it so that it's like the team and what they're proud of. We also have which year they're in. Something that we're going to add to this section is what everybody does, because that's something that we're kind of lacking in. We have like what people are proud of, but we don't have like, oh, are you a builder? Are you a designer? Are you documentarian?
So I'm doing a live search right now. Somebody just asked, or Jackie from Wolfpack, is there a place we could find mock judging prompts? Judging question bank. Look at that. FTC judging interv. I spelled it wrong, but judging question bank, sample judges questions, database of judges questions 10 months ago on subreddit FTC. Guys, y'all, friends, that's a gold mine right there, right? And if you didn't know that those exist, go use those resources. And yeah, love the Google. I lead with sarcasm. Sarcasm is my love language. Nicole can tell you, Isaac can tell you. Google is your friend, man. And there's people out there smarter than us who've been doing this longer than us and better than us, and we look to learn from them all the time. We do want to highlight as we maybe round the end to a wrap up. You will be getting from Nicole and other members of TARDIS a resources bank directory listing.
We can put these in there.
And we'll put, yes, this in there as well. Give them a little time. It's competition week for us. We promise it's coming. We hope that this alone was informative enough, coming up now on about 100 minutes worth of content. What a delight to be part of this community. Yeah, I'm proud of you, kid. You did good. Yeah, thanks for the help, Isaac. Should we leave it there?
We got a judge's question.
We got a
Judges
judge's.
want members to work on that.
Oh, will judges want members to work on the robot and design and outreach? I'm going to be honest. When was the last time you touched the robot? Any robot? No, right? So what do we mean there? We have 15 people.
Yep.
We work with sub teams. Go. What do you got?
Yep. So the way that we kind of divide our team and figure out who is going to do what is beginning of the season, as we get new members on.
Keep talking. We're gonna Kirti, stick around, Kirti. We're gonna answer your question. We didn't talk about that, about how you present the portfolio. That's a huge miss. Sorry, go ahead.
So beginning of the season, as we get new members, we kind of just like let them go free. Do you want to build? Do you want to program? What do you want to do? And from there, they kind of find their passion. And, I started as a builder. Crazy. Yeah, I did. I did. My very first year, I was a builder. And then the season started and I was like, okay, well, there's a need in programming, so I'm just going to go program. I programmed the entirety of that season. I also started outreach because I found a passion in a camp that our team hosts. And that was like the beginning of my outreach coordinator stuff. And last season, I was outreach coordinator, I was programmer, and then I started dabbling in documentation. And now I'm like documentation and outreach. So it's really a process, and not every single team member has to do absolutely everything. And the judges are looking for, I can't speak for this like 100%, but they want to see that different people do different things. Like,
balanced team.
Yeah.
Balanced.
And not the like one person doing absolutely everything.
That's probably the worst that you could have. And it's okay for there to be all-stars out there. We probably got some all-stars still in the conversation here with the 43 of you that are still on the chat. We honor that. But it's important that everybody have a productive season, that everybody be able to see, I think, pride and value in their time with FTC and FIRST. So we really at TARDIS put a premium on where are you going to find fulfillment? What do you want to focus on in growth? And sometimes that even shifts within a season. It is okay for us as coaches and mentors, if I may take it for a second, to recognize unhappiness or a student who's not feeling like they're being productive. It might manifest itself a different way with different behaviors and things. And I don't mean to sound like a dad or a scold, but I'm pretty good at reading a room. And if I see a kid who's maybe a little bit more disconnected or whatnot, maybe that's a sign to me that Bill as a programmer isn't working anymore, and maybe we need to give that student some space and grace to find meaning and value and purpose within the team. If that doesn't sound too grand. Battery Battalion, love you guys. So glad that you're here. It's good to have you here with us. Yeah, I see that's the driver right in the hoodie, right? I think that's the guy that I knew from MCing in the front row. That one right there, big guy. Good to see you guys. I think we'll see you at Broad Alban too. Or no, they're coming to Corning.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
they're
We
coming
will
down
see
to
you
Corning.
there.
That'd be great. Let me answer questions. Sorry, Kirti and Shannon. So Shannon said, I thought I read in the manual only 2 can be in the interview. Friend, I'm not sure where you got that, but trust me, we've sent 15 into the interview twice this year and we haven't been disqualified yet.
Yeah.
So you're okay. Go full send. I will say, I've never been one of the strategy of in presentation that less is more. I don't think that there's a reverse rule that you have to send the entire team. And noting, I'm very unfamiliar with FRC. That I know that they have their chairmans or it's called I think the Impact Award now, that they have an impact team, and that team again, example 4 kids instead of 60 goes into the room, but that's just a whole different scale. Everything at FRC is a different scale. Could we as TARDIS choose to send 3 to represent 15? I think legally, I think we can. We just don't. So I'm actually embarrassed that I don't know the answer to that question. We've just never thought of it that way. I think it's a better experience for everybody, for the team to feel ownership in owning and sharing their own story. Kirti's other question that I wanted to hit, are we going to present it, meaning the portfolio, on a screen, or do we print out portfolio? Friend, you are going to want to print out 3 portfolios. And my recommendation is that you go to Staples or your local office superstore, and it's that, I don't know if you can see it there, but it's that multi-ring, a 3-ring binder will do as well. But all of these are inserts. You can see here, I can take out the title page here. So we buy that at Staples and then insert the pages. I just took apart your portfolio. I'm so sorry. But we do 3 of those. 2 get dropped off with the judges and 1 goes to the pits because we get the other 2 back at the end of the day. I should know this, but I think it's documented in the competition manual this year. The judges do want 2 copies. I
Yep.
think that's written down.
It's
Oh, maybe
because
that's the 2 that you thought. It's 2 copies of the
the
portfolio
reason it's 2 is because they need 1 for the Think Award and 1 for Control.
for control. And those are different behind the scenes, just so you know. You might get a panel of judges in the morning, but then if there was room A, B, C, and D, the control award judges from each of those rooms. So just to go the example, control person A, control person B, C, depending on the size of the qualification, they would then travel the pits together. All those control software people would spend the middle part of the day together, separate from their fellow panelists on the morning judges panel. Hopefully that makes sense. And they're traveling the pits and interrogating those portfolios, looking for exemplary control content. 1 allowed, but yeah. So Jackie, we are only sending 1 coach or mentor, and I believe that's absolutely right. 1 adult can go in
Be silent.
and be silent. You can't be back there. I'm not a good person to go because I got to sit on my hands. Like, no, tell more. You can't do that. It is 1 professional and solid adult who I'll tell you what we do. Is send in a very, very reliable adult. She's been with our team for ages and first for ages. She goes in almost with the sole purpose of writing down the questions that are asked because the kids rarely remember them, I would say, with precision. They're too overwhelmed, a little stressed out, a little anxious. We send Coach Penny in with her iPhone out and she'll write down the questions, sometimes sticky notes. I will tell you, shifting this a little bit, we're still talking. Here we are. We're going into overtime. More questions is more. And what I mean by that is answer the question, and I tell my team, answer the question, and then shut up. And if Nicole answers the question or she's the first to speak, and Isaac's like, oh, I could add some, it is very rare that we would encourage the kids to do that unless it was a blinding omission. Now, the reason being, answering 13 questions is better than answering 8. And because, and you could say, well, what if the 8 were really good answers? I would argue it's about more planting seeds, right? You want to hit a greater diversity and a greater volume of questions to an extent, right? You can't say that 30 questions is better than 13. I don't want to get pedantic about it, but we know that a good interview for us is somewhere north of 10 questions because it meant that they presented well, they answered a good variety of questions, and then hopefully we would see the judges on pit follow-up. Do you want to expand on that, or did that hit that? Cool. Let's look at the questions here. Let's see. And again, friends, if you're at a place where you need to sign off, yeah, we're down to about 40 or so. Thank you so much for being with us today. Follow TARDIS5356 on Instagram.
If the judges are struggling to ask you questions, do you think it's better to start talking about things you know need to be talked about?
If the judges are struggling, I don't think you guys have ever experienced judges struggling to
Well,
answer.
They
so a
ran
lot of
questions
times,
for
yeah,
us.
a lot of times if the judges run out of questions, they will ask you like,
Is
is
there
there anything else you want to add? And
That was a miss for you guys
Yeah,
last
it
week.
was.
Yeah,
It
you want
was,
to talk to that?
yeah, and just having that kind of like something that we've always been told is like, if you get asked that, you got to
Ask
just,
what though? What was the question?
is there anything else you want to add? Talk about something that you're proud of. Because the judges also want to know like you're real people and they kind of want to know like these aren't just words that are being put into your mouth.
That you're having fun.
Yeah, that's a good one. Have a name for your robot. We actually introduced our robot. I think
Echo.
Lincoln
Thanks,
goes,
Deb.
he goes like, this is our robot Echo. But having something else to add, and it can be anything from what you're proud of that season to expanding more on
A
a
subsystem. I would say having a subsystem ready to go on a talking point is a huge one.
Yeah, like last time they asked and then we couldn't think of anything, but then I thought of something that we put in our intake, our little cheek implants is what we call them. And I like nudged the person next to me because he worked on it. I was like, you want to talk about the cheek implants?
Yeah. I think coach level pro tip, uh, students should, we always do a tune-up the morning of the qualifier once we, Cameron, implement our format for the portfolio. What I would encourage you to do in terms of formatting, I'll come back to my entering the interview, remind me. It won't serve you, if I'm going to be really specific about it, to take our font and take our purple and things like that. What I would encourage you to do is see the bones and the structure. And by all means, there's no copyright or anything like that. We're doing this whole workshop so that teams can benefit from Nicole's experience and our experience over the last 4 years. I don't want people to get lost in like, oh, TARDIS chose this font, therefore we need to too. That's not the point. But the idea of using a header and then a subheader. And then, as an example, if I have to write more than 2 sentences, I shift to bullet points to give more of a top level summary or keywords. Absolutely. That's where we want your emphasis and focus to be. So I hope you find that feedback supportive.
Yeah, and Cameron, I think you mentioned earlier that you're a one-person portfolio team. I'm more than happy to support you, like lightly. If you want to email us, we can be in contact.
And Cameron, we're sure you look great in purple. So steal the purple all the live long day. Back to entering the judging room. I think I don't want our team to enter the judging room without what am I proud of this season? What have I learned this season? Or now from here on out, being able to answer, is there anything else you'd like to share with us? And I heard that they got that question. This happened a week ago, so you're hearing us react to it in real time. And my understanding is you guys got a little flummoxed. You were like, yeah, you got brought up short. There should be instant answers to that question. And I want for that to never, ever, ever, ever happen again. We are a 13-year-old team, and we got stumped by a question last week. And if I'm being honest, I'm like 3% a little bit mad about it, right? Because we're better than that, and they should have been ready. So now I'm thinking my baseline on that was subsystems. Everybody who worked on a subsystem, which is like 9 or 10 of our kids of 15, should have been able to say, well, in terms of our subsystems, I'd really like to highlight our lift. One thing that I like about it, or one thing that we really worked on, I'm not going to go into the specifics of the example, but just that mentality of I've got a couple things in the pocket that despite how anxious I get or how flummoxed I might get, I know, wait, lift, lift, lift. I can talk about the lift, or I learned about programming this year, or I'm proud of our STEM boxes. You've got that answer in your pocket every day of the week, which is awesome. And again, Cameron, I'm sure you'll look great in purple. Anything else? The questions have kind of slowed, which is fine. We don't want to belabor the point.
We are 50 minutes over time.
Yeah, we're 50 minutes overtime. Um, Yeah, I think maybe we wrap up there.
Yeah.
We'll find you guys online. Email's great. Nicole's on
If
the
you
other end
guys
of
think
email.
of any other questions, like email us. We will respond in 1 to 2 business days,
There you go.
probably.
And all the best as y'all continue your journey into the deep. There it is. I did the thing. Embarrassing dad is embarrassing.
Yep.
We good?
Yep.
Cut it there?
Yep.
All right. Be well,
Alright.
friends. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Good luck out there. Bye-bye.